to the UIAAA Connection podcast. GoFan and VNN are proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the UIAAA Connection. Now a combined company, GoFan and VNN provide a seamless integration for digital ticketing and athletic websites. Direct your fans to one place for all your athletic events, communications, and tickets to home and away games. Thank you to GoFan and VNN for their exclusive sponsorship of the UIAAA Connection.
Welcome to another edition of the UIAAA Connection. I'm your host, Mark Hutch Hunter. Today we have as our special guest, Bo Roundy, Director of Athletics at Davis High School. Welcome to the podcast, Bo.
Thank you.
Let's have you begin by sharing with our international audience where you grew up, where you went to high school, college, your first job, etc.
Very good. I'm Bo Roundy. I grew up and was born on an Indian reservation in Ronan, Montana, to a single mother. I later moved north to Columbia Falls, Montana, northwestern Montana, where I graduated high school, was a Hall of Fame athlete there. I went from high school in 1995 to Dickinson State, North Dakota, a small college in North Dakota where I was on football and wrestling scholarship. And after my time there, I served a mission in the Philippines for 2 years. And then coming off my mission, I decided I did not want to go back to North Dakota. So I settled at the community college there in Kalispell called Flathead Valley Community College, and just sort of figuring out my next step in life. And I felt like I should go to Utah State. And so packed up and went to Utah State and got my history teaching degree, my coaching minor, and graduated 2005 from Utah State. A funny side note that just actually has been a really important part of my life that I didn't realize. I actually joined the cheer squad. I was a cheerleader and Big Blue, the mascot at Utah State, from 2002 to 2005, which has really blessed me because just to be able to see that side of a university and to give me ideas that help me today, just the vision of a school, and I feel like I'm a little bit more well-rounded with that background. But I graduated Utah State 2005 and was immediately hired as a head coach at Logan High School. Now I look back and it makes sense to me now, but to be honest, I wasn't sure why they would hire me as a head coach right out of college. I'm grateful for Logan High. I taught at Logan High history and was a coach for 11 years at Logan High. It's a great place for me to cut my teeth. I love Logan. I learned so much. Very different school than Davis. Very high minority, free and reduced lunch, high percentage. It was good for me to learn. I worked really hard at Logan High, where I coached football, I coached wrestling, I also coached track. I was very busy. But then as life does, I got an offer. The head coach at Davis was retiring for wrestling, and I got a call and said, would you be interested in coming to Davis? Back up just a titch. I did get my graduate degree while at Logan High at Utah State, and I got my graduate degree in educational leadership. And so I am thinking about admin. It's something I think about. The problem is I'm too happy where I'm at. I'm too happy coaching. I'm too happy teaching and being athletic director. I'm just so happy doing that. So I'm happy, and I got young kids still. So here I stay. But I moved to Davis. This is my 8th season, 8 at Davis High School. I came here as the head coach, wrestling coach, and I teach history. And now I am 3 years just finishing 3 years as Davis High's athletic director. I still am the head wrestling coach. I have coached wrestling for 19 years. It is absolutely a love of my life. I have sons that do it, which help, but nonetheless, I love it. And I teach history still, and I also do driver's ed. So I try to help there. That's sort of where I'm at professionally. So
That's fascinating. Let me just go back to something you first talked about. So you grew up in northwestern Montana?
yes, I did. That's a
And
great place for a kid to grow up. There's a lot of space. The big sky country.
and so how far from Kalispell, let's say? Further
So
west than that?
Yeah, so Columbia Falls is 20 miles towards Glacier National Park.
Uh-huh.
The town I grew up in is called the Gateway to Glacier. It's a beautiful, beautiful place there. Yeah,
And so you grew up in Columbia Falls, because my
I
next
did.
question was going to be about Glacier,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I've been to Glacier 5 or 6 times during my life, and it is just absolute heaven. When I was a kid, hiked to Iceberg Lake. I've done the Highland Trail. I actually stayed at the chalet back when you could stay at the chalet in 1990 with my young family.
Yeah, that going to the Sun Highway, you don't forget those things, right? That's breathtaking.
Oh, absolutely. Let's have you talk for a minute about some of the mentors you had in your life that had an effect on you growing up and even professionally.
So I'm going to start with my current principal. Her name is Dr. Lori Hawthorne. She is a second-year principal here at Davis, and she's amazing. She is teaching me so much. As often we go through things that are hard. We take parent complaints. We at Davis High School are working through the Department of Justice issue, the lawsuit that we've been through. We're under a microscope here. She's amazing. She's professional. She's loving. She's stern. I'm learning a lot just from her personality, her approach. She just is the perfect combination of love and getting the job done like we should. I appreciate her. My last principal, Dr. Greg Wilkie, amazing. He taught me what kindness is, that kindness is a power. Kindness is a power. It's not a weakness. And he just was the master of that. I look back at my high school experience with such joy that's exactly why I am where I am. I had teachers that loved me, that knew me. I had coaches that spent time, and I thought that's who I want to be. And so I figured out, by the time I was a sophomore, junior in high school, that I wanted to be in public education and I wanted to coach. And so that's why in history, I'll talk about that a little bit later, my love for history and how it's impacted my career here. But those are just people that and I love. Leadership is something that's quite fascinating to me. I enjoyed my master's program at Utah State. Just the power of leadership is so influential. So those are some people that have helped me.
Very good. Let me ask you a personal question. Bo, what's your biggest failure or disappointment in life, and what did you learn from it?
I have to be honest. This has been hard. I have been sitting wondering. I fail, and it's not that I don't fail. It's not that I don't, because I often fail. And I have an answer, but I just want to tell you, thank you for this question. We often, as coaches, teach that through loss it comes great lesson, right? Through is learning. Here's my greatest mistake. I lived in Cache Valley for 19 years. It was crazy leaving Cache Valley, moving to Davis, realizing that I had actually lived in Cache Valley longer than I had lived in Montana. That was a weird feeling. But in Cache Valley, beautiful. And in Cache Valley, there's the Wellsville Mountains that you can see. And I always had wanted to climb and sleep on top of the Wellsvilles. I don't know why. I love the country. I love camping and I love the stars. So I took my 2 young sons and went up there, and I did not prepare for what happened. I didn't study the trail enough. I didn't take enough water. It was July 24th. It was a hot day. We had made it to the ridge. We slept a very uncomfortable night on top of that mountain under the stars. But when we packed up the next morning to go down, I took the wrong turn and I got us into trouble. 2 young kids. I had a son that was 5 years old and a son that was 9. And we got down the hill far enough that we were just down far enough, running out of water into buckbrush. If you don't know what buckbrush is, it's nasty. You can't get through it. And we pushed. We're out of water. We come to a ridge where we can see and realize that we are completely a ridge away from where we need to be. And it's July 24th. It's 100 degrees. So we, long story short, called 911 and they had to ping my phone. And we waited for 7 hours at that point with no water for search and rescue. We were in such a nasty spot, they couldn't get to us. So they had to helicopter us out by cable. I look back and I learned so much. That was a failure. Terrified me that I'd put my sons in a situation like that. I should have just prepared better. I should have studied the map. I should have taken more water. That one hurt. That was a painful experience. You know, 7 hours is an agonizing amount of time to wait for help to get to you when there's, nowhere you could go but just sit and patient. But yeah, that's my experience. That's my failure.
That is a fascinating story. Thank you so much for sharing. That's a little bit of a personal story. And so I think our listeners can learn from that. So thanks a lot for that. Let's go back for a minute now. You talked about your time as a coach. So we have a little bit of your background before you became the AD. So you're at Davis. You applied for the position. Obviously, if I'm not mistaken, Mitch was there. So he left to go to Ogden. You just said, I want the job. The principal came to you. How did that work out?
Yeah. So Miley Zachman, 4.5 years ago, was our athletic director here. She was the softball coach. She's now an administrator at Farmington High School. So she stepped down and I applied. Now, from my perspective, I had coached football. I had coached wrestling. I had coached track. I had coached cheer. I had coached gymnastics. I was a cheerleader. I was an athlete. I had my master's in educational leadership. And I had 16 years experience. I thought I was the guy. I thought I was the guy. And I was in Iowa City at a wrestling tournament when the principal called me and said I didn't get the job. And I was confused. I thought, I thought it was my job. I thought I had, quote, earned it, I didn't get it. Mitch Arquette was given the job. Now, as things go, I'm grateful for what happened. He was our athletic director. I was able to learn, from him, and he was here for just over a year. And he moved, and because he moved to Ogden, like you said, and because we had just had this hiring process, then I was the next choice and became the athletic director. But I'm grateful for that moment that I had to learn a little more before I became athletic director 3 years ago. And so it reminded me a little bit of when I was a cheerleader at Utah State. I didn't make the team. They cut me. And then, the next year, of course, you become a member. But sometimes it doesn't go quite like you plan,
Understandable. Let's talk for a minute. You've been an AD for 3 years now. Just in the short time that you've been an athletic administrator, how has the job changed in your perspective? Or is it pretty much the same?
It feels to me, I'm changing. We're getting sports added. We've got lacrosse, we've got boys volleyball, we've got girls wrestling, we've got cheer sanctioned. Our load is heavier. Our load is heavier. I don't see, I think back to my athletic directors who I knew. Ron McBride at Logan High hired me, a great man. And he would paint field lines, like athletic directors would be outside a lot more. And I try to get outside, but there's so much that I do that's communication, that's arbiter related, that's officials, that's making sure the community knows, communicating with custodians and admin, and we're that middleman bridge of the school, I feel like. And so, in my 3 years, I don't know if it's changed all that much. There's things that are happening that keep getting added, I think, to us a little bit. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it does. So let's add to that now and talk for a moment about the UIAAA, obviously the Athletic Directors Association. How did you first hear about it? How did you become involved? And talk about some of the networking that you've been able to do since becoming a member.
Yeah, and that's thanks to Mitch Arquette, my predecessor, that I just saw his involvement in that. And I have been amazed at the UIAAA. I'm amazed at what a professional opportunity. The courses I've taken, the courses I continue to take are life-changing, career-changing. I have not been to the national conference. Now I keep being told that, hey, that's life. You got to do that. That's right in the middle of wrestling season. I haven't figured that one out yet, but I'm working on getting my CAA exam, my exam. I can pass my exam hopefully on November 8th. And I had planned to do that last year and it didn't work out that way, but I plan on being certified. I'm proud of that. I want to do that. That's exciting for me. I worked hard and studied and taken courses, and I'm going to be a little personal here too, but sometimes I'm new and I feel a little like I need to connect a little more. Sometimes I go to St. George and I feel like I wish I knew more people, and obviously that will come with time. That comes with traveling and going to schools. But the state's so big and there's so many regions and so many schools and so many people that there are to meet. But sometimes I wish I knew more people, in the association. But I'm working on that. I plan on attending. I plan on continuing my courses. I plan on passing this exam next month, and because I love this. I love this new world I'm in. I'm proud of our profession. So
that's excellent. I want you to talk for a minute. You may have a little different perspective. This question's not one that I normally ask. I want you to talk about taking over as the AD at a legendary school in Utah. When I say legendary, Davis has been around for a long, long time. I remember when I was in high school, and this is the late 60s, early 70s, and Davis always competitive in football. And this was back in the days when Davis ran the double wing. And of course, I realized that I had heard, I don't know this for a fact, that when whoever the coach was up there, that changed and went away to a more open look and a more passing tag. Because if you talked about the double wing, that was Davis High. And back when I played, there was only two schools that had lights, Davis and Bountiful.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you played at 3 p.m. And so Davis and Bountiful both in our league when I was at Highland. You didn't play at Davis and at Bountiful in the same year. You were either at Davis or at Bountiful. So you got one night game a year. And Davis just has so much tradition with their football, with their wrestling, with their drill, with their basketball. Jay Welk, a great coach there. So I just want your perspective on taking over at a school, because there's not a whole lot of schools like Davis with that storied history.
I wrote down notes for this one. This one, I hope I answer this appropriately. Our school is 109 years old.
Yeah.
That's amazing to me. There are pictures of early teams that hang in our hallways. Our motto is defend the tradition. I don't take it lightly, but I don't think about it. I know that sounds weird, but I don't worry about it. This is what I said. The reason I feel like I've been successful is because, one, I have connected to our past. I take great pride and honor several members of our community every year. Jay Welk, we've honored.
Mm-hmm.
We honor a great number of people. So I'm often asking the community, who the greats are, who's the great, and so what I try to do is go as far back as I can. Who's still alive, who can I honor, and so I teach history, so it's really natural for me to connect to our history and to connect to our past here at Davis High School, which is significant. We have a huge number of coaches and athletes who are in the Utah Hall of Fame that have been here. And so I sat next to Lori Salvo yesterday at volleyball and said, Lori, who's next? Who do I need to reach out to? And so I think I've been successful because I've been able to recognize and connect with, and in my own way, bring them back. I make a banner. That banner hangs in what I call the dark tunnel where my office is. And I connect with those people. And it's an amazing experience for me, not being from Davis, to recognize those great people. And they are so appreciative. The second thing I wrote down is, to be an AD at a legendary school is, from the beginning, that I wanted to instill trust in my staff, in my competency, being able to be a trusted leader, to just make sure that I was meeting deadlines and communicating with them clearly and making sure that officials are ordered quickly and paid for, and register my athlete is up to date and coaches are certified, and the district, right, on new hires knows who's in our school, and so background checks can be done quickly. And I take great pride in making sure that they see me as a competent leader and someone they can trust, making sure that I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to on my end so that their seasons go so much better. I have learned to support and love who I have. Now, I'm fortunate. Now, I don't know how it is for everybody, but in my 3 years, I haven't had a single coach change, but 2. Danny Summerhays was our boys golf coach, and he left to go back and play in the PGA. So he left to go chase some more dreams. And Lori Salvo, who retired after many, many, many years of being here, I've only had 2 replacements of our entire coaching staff. And so we have some real consistency here, but I have learned to really stand beside them, love them, support them. I check in with them as constant as I can, and just to let them know that I'm thinking about them. I'm thinking about their playoff schedule. I'm thinking about their schedule and their needs, and just being a constant in their life of just someone that supports them. I learned to listen. Just the last thing I said as I've thought about this question, it's a great question. I listen to people. I listen to parents. I listen to coaches. I listen to the old guard that's here, and I just found a lot of success, I think, just listening, just being a person that can be trustworthy and will listen to needs and desires and the things that the school needs. So
That is some great insight. Thank you so much for sharing. I understand what it's like to be at a school like that. I was at Jordan High, which I
Yeah.
think is probably maybe
Yeah.
10 years older than Davis.
Older.
But
Yeah.
back in the 1920s, there just wasn't a whole lot of high schools in the state of Utah. Jordan, West, Davis,
Davis. Yeah.
Bingham. I mean, that was pretty much it. So I appreciate that answer, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. Talk for a minute about a common myth that you would like to debunk. Everyone thinks that an athletic director does this when in fact that's not really the case.
I don't know everyone's experience. I also thought and wrestled with this question. I thought, man, what do people think? Here's what I thought. I thought I had a budget. I looked at athletic directors. I pay for so much. There's so many bills that come in for the common, good
Right.
of that my budget is small. And so it's been a little bit of how do I deal with this? Where is my revenue? Right? Because we push so hard to raise. I mean, these programs, your programs, your sports programs, and all your programs in your school are crying for fundraisers throughout the community, and they're bringing in money and they're figuring out their way of raising funds. And I had to figure out where mine was. How could I use Davis High as a whole to go to people? And for example, there's I won't give names, but there's a landscaping company in Kaysville that's very supportive. And I figured out ways, through the district and through Davis High School to have some of the projects done, beautify our fields, and so I've had to be a little bit creative in saying, hey, I got an idea. We can hang your banner. We're really good at sponsoring businesses. Would you be willing to pitch in? So I've had to be really creative, but I think there's quite a few myths, but that's one that just really stood out to me. I just thought that athletic directors had some really healthy working budget, and it's not the case. It hasn't been the case. And I've really, really had to be creative on the angle that I've taken to get some business support in our community, both through services, through fertilizer and grass seed and dirt or wherever it may be, to actual money that can help sustain our programs.
Excellent. Let me just, before I go to the next question, let me just throw a shout out to the darts. Obviously, when this airs, it's going to be the first part of December, so the football season is over. But last night, region championship for the
champions.
darts.
Yeah, it's an incredible night last night. It's been an incredible season. It's been since 2016 that they won the region, and they won it outright last night. 9-1 overall season. It was so much fun last night. Yeah, Scott Peary is doing a great job with our football program. Thank you.
That is excellent. Let me ask you this. What's the favorite part of your job, Bo?
I love serving people. I love serving. I don't know how you all feel as athletic director. I'm not an administrator. I'm not a custodian. I'm everyone. I'm a part of the whole system. I feel like I'm the one connection to everyone in the school, a bit of a bridge, and at times it's lonely, and at times it's overwhelming, and it oftentimes feels like you're carrying so much by yourself. But what fills my soul is I love to serve. I love to serve people. I love being somewhat invisible at times, but being that guy that's made the event happen, that no one even noticed, that no one even saw, because we're there early and we're there late and we're just kind of behind the scenes. But this is a job that fills my soul. And I think it's because I just love to serve people. I love to help. I love to see people smile. I love to do kind things.
That's excellent. Let me finish up with a couple of questions. And the first, a little bit different for you because you're really considered a newer AD. But I want you to give me Bo Roundy's 2 suggestions that a brand new AD would have to follow your suggestions in order to be a success. What would your 2 suggestions be?
I have 3, and they are this.
Okay.
1, work to your strength. You are unique. You have weaknesses. You have strengths. No, work to your strengths. You're not your predecessor. You're not, you are you. And so I've learned my biggest suggestion is just know what you're good at and be really good at it and focus on that. The second thing I put is breathe. Know what you can't mess up on. Know what you must. Know what you must. Don't order an official and see how you feel. Don't put in a kid for academic. Don't submit an academic all-state, right? There's things that just know what you can't mess up on. And I just said touch base with as people as often as you can. And the last one is short, but have fun. We have the coolest job, I think, in the entire school. Have fun. You know, you're going to sweat, you're going to work, you're going to communicate, you're going to go through hard things. But I would say have fun. I honestly believe we have the best job in the school.
Those are great answers. Thanks so much for sharing. We'll finish with this. Bo, what question should I have asked you that I failed to ask you?
I think you did great. I loved your questions. It has really made me think and just evaluate where I am and who I am and, you know, my future in this. I don't think you missed any. It's perfect. And thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being on the podcast. With that wraps it up for this edition of the UIAAA Connection. Again, our guest today has been Bo Roundy, the Director of Athletics at Davis High School. Bo, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much.
For our listeners, we hope you tune in again next week for another edition of the UIAAA Connection.